the attendees are coming in
as we speak.
As we speak.
Okay. Well, I want to welcome everybody to the June 22nd City Council meeting. Prior to the start of our meeting today, we've got a couple of quick presentations and proclamations. And so I'd like to start out first. We've got a special service award for Elaine Estes, and we want to thank her for many years of service to the city of Des Moines, not only to the Historic Preservation Commission, but also to the Public Library of Des Moines. And our City Council member, Carl Voss. Carl, I'm going to kick it over to you for a couple of special words for Elaine. Carl?
Carl, you should be able to unmute yourself. Okay.
Is that good? Am I good?
You're
Yes.
good.
All right. Elaine has served for 25 years that we know of on the Historic Preservation Commission. And prior to that, I believe she served 39 years on the library staff, several of those as the library director. Elaine is such a special resource for our community. She's also served on the state Historic Preservation Board and on some national boards. So she is almost like a reference library in herself on historic preservation. So we wanted to use this opportunity to thank her for her service. And I believe Sue Woody is there at Elaine's house to make a presentation of a plaque. And we were fortunate to dig out a key to the city for Elaine that we're very proud to give her this evening. Thank you. Yeah,
thanks, Carl. And Elaine, to you, for the so many years of great service to the city of Des Moines and the Historic District Commission, and also personally from me as the mayor of the city of Des Moines, you have been a great friend and a great advisor all through the years. And I want you to know how much I appreciate it. And I know the whole council appreciates your years of service. So congratulations. And although you probably can't hear us, I'm clapping as we speak.
Mayor and city council members and Mayor and Mrs. Woody, thank you so much. I certainly had no expectations of receiving an award or any recognition for public service. It has been my pleasure to serve on behalf of historic preservation. I've had the honor, as Carl said, of being a member of preservation boards and commissions nationally, statewide, and locally. Saving historic properties and sites is so important in the United States. It is important because we have the opportunity to see and live in properties that are not older than other parts of the world. People have asked me why I am interested in saving historic architecture. And my response has always been, I think it is one thing to read about different periods of structures, but it is totally another thing to see them, observe them, touch them, understand the interiors and exteriors. And in my profession, I certainly believe people should read history to understand the lifestyles over the years. So this is a pleasure for me to be here and to accept your kind awards. And I wish other people who are serving in the future enjoy their service as much as I have, and I wish them well in the responsibilities, because it is a responsibility to be accurate, to be as as true to the profession as you can. And thanks to all of you.
And again, Elaine, thanks to you for those many years of service. And we're not going to let you go easily. We want you to be able to stay connected with us. We're going to need your insight and your historical information. We appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
All right, let's move on. We've got a proclamation. Can you put that up? All right, that's good. Ooh, that's not so good.
You need it bigger?
Yeah. I don't need to see my signature for sure. All right. So we have done this a number of times through the last recent years. We on a various times through the year and through the years, we have looked at warfare and certainly nuclear warfare, and we have a proclamation which we're going to read. But I would ask first, is David Drake on?
He is. I'll find him. Yep, he's there.
All right, David, I think you're on. And if you're unmuted, I'd like David to make a quick comment regarding Back from the Brink, the Call to Prevent Nuclear War Day. David?
Thank you, Mayor County. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, great. Good to be here. And thank you for this opportunity. I've got a brief statement. In recent weeks, we've been shocked by the discrimination and violence against unarmed Americans who are African American. As with this proclamation that you can see in front of you, there's no greater violence imaginable than the use of nuclear weapons. As we seek to end the state violence against so many in our communities, we must also take decisive action to eliminate nuclear weapons before they are used intentionally or by accident. Experts like former Defense Secretary William Perry tell us that we are closer to nuclear war than we have ever been. The well-known doomsday clock of the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists has now been set at 100 seconds before midnight, the closest it has ever been. The scientific and medical community are warning us that even a limited nuclear war could cause worldwide climate disruption and a catastrophic famine, putting some 2 billion people at risk. The Back from the Brink campaign, which is in this proclamation and which is being sought nationwide and internationally, seeks to bring about fundamental change in U.S. nuclear policy and initiate negotiations among all nuclear-armed states for a verifiable, enforceable, time-bound agreement to dismantle their nuclear arsenals. As an Iowa physician and psychiatrist, I applaud Mayor County for this proclamation, putting Des Moines' elected mayor clearly on record in support of this historic undertaking. I thank the many members from the Des Moines community connected to the Methodist Federation for Social Action, Catholic Peace Ministry, Star Pack, Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, the Des Moines Faith Community for Peace, Des Moines Valley Friends Meeting and their Peace Committee, and also Physicians for Social Responsibility in Iowa and also nationally. Special thanks in Iowa to Maureen McHugh and John Rakow, both physicians. Thank you very much, Mayor County.
All right. Our proclamation reads as follows. Nuclear weapons are the most devastating weapons ever created by humankind, with immense destructive capacity and transgenerational radiation effects. And 9 nations, including the United States, collectively have approximately 13,355 nuclear weapons in their arsenals, most of which are far more destructive than the U.S. atomic bombs that destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan in 1945. And the demolition of even a small, or the detonation of even a small number of these weapons could have catastrophic human and environmental consequences that could affect everyone on the planet. And whereas the U.S. continues to reserve the right to use nuclear weapons first, which reduces the threshold for nuclear use and makes a nuclear war more likely. And whereas over the next 30 years, the U.S. plans to spend more than $1.7 trillion to replace its entire nuclear weapons infrastructure and upgrade its nuclear bombs and warheads and the bombers, missiles, and submarines that deliver them with more capable and more unusable or more usable versions. And whereas the 2020 fiscal year federal tax costs to the Des Moines taxpayers, if over $39 million for weapons of mass destruction that must never be used. And whereas a grassroots movement called Back from the Brink, the call to prevent nuclear war has been endorsed by 250 health, environmental, academic, peace, and justice organizations, and has resulted in resolutions approved by the United States Conference of Mayors, which I will note our resolution was approved unanimously today at the opening of the International Committee of the Conference of Mayors.
Good.
And 32 municipalities, including the cities of Los Angeles, Baltimore, Salt Lake City, and Washington, with more under consideration. And whereas the U.S. is obligated under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty to take concrete steps to eliminate its nuclear arsenals. Now, therefore, Des Moines calls on the U.S. to lead a global effort to prevent nuclear war by, and if you could advance it a little bit, okay.
Just a moment. I'm trying to multitask. There you go.
By renouncing the option of using nuclear weapons first, ending the sole unchecked authority of any president to launch a nuclear attack, taking U.S. nuclear weapons off hair trigger alert, and canceling the plan to replace its entire arsenal with enhanced weapons, and actively pursuing a verifiable agreement among nuclear armed states to eliminate their nuclear arsenals. Now, therefore, I, the mayor of the city of Des Moines, do hereby proclaim Monday, June 22nd, as Back from the Brink to call the Prevent Nuclear War Day. And be it further resolved that Des Moines, Iowa calls on the U.S. to welcome the treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons. Thank you, David, for being part of it, and thank everybody. This is an important piece, and as I say, even the Conference of Mayors unanimously in their international committee voted on a similar resolution just today. So thanks, David. All right.
You see the new one?
Yeah, and do we have anybody that's going to speak on this? Is Joshua or anyone else
On this next one?
on the LGBTQ Pride Month?
Yes, he said that there was Claudia Schabel.
Okay, is Claudia on?
I have to go and find her. There she is.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I will be offering very brief remarks to thank the LGBTQ Advisory Council for their insights and guidance in helping the Commission and the City of Des Moines become more gender inclusive. They have been instrumental in letting us see how we can shape city policy in more gender inclusive language. And I believe that we do have the Advisory Council chair and vice chair present today, and they're going to be offering some remarks as well. Thank you.
All right, and introduce the chair, please.
Erica Bars.
Have we found him?
Yes.
on that individual.
Here, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi. I'm Erica Bars. I'm the chair of the LGBTQ Advisory Council for the City of Des Moines Civil and Human Rights Commission. I really want to thank city leadership for making this proclamation today. I want to say a little bit about Pride Month. Pride Month commemorates the Stonewall Uprising, which is a time when the LGBTQ community, led by Black and Brown transgender women, rose up against injustice and maltreatment, particularly at the hands of law enforcement and the criminal legal system. And while we're unable to come together in person to honor this legacy this year, I really think that this month in our city has reflected the original spirit of this celebration. I'm so proud of the activists, many of whom are LGBTQ, who have led the charge against systemic anti-Blackness in Des Moines over the past several weeks. Bayard Rustin, a gay Black civil rights leader who advised Martin Luther King Jr., once said that we need in every community a group of angelic troublemakers. And I urge city leadership to back up the words of this proclamation with action that aligns with what our city's own group of angelic troublemakers has requested of you. In doing so, you would truly embody the spirit of Pride Month and help us create a more just and equitable city. Thank you. That ends my comments.
In the vice chair, would they like to make a couple of quick remarks?
Who are they?
I'm not sure.
Those were the only two that Joshua gave me.
Okay, why don't I go ahead and read the proclamation because I think that is so important. The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas our nation was founded on the principle of equal rights for all people, but the fulfillment of the promise has been long in coming for many Americans. And whereas the city of Des Moines has a diverse LGBTQ community and is committed to supporting visibility, dignity, and equity for all people in the community. And whereas since 1978, the LGBTQ community of Des Moines annually celebrates Pride Month each June, honoring the fight for dignity and equality for the LGBTQ community and the progress made each year. And whereas everyone should be able to live without fear of prejudice, discrimination, violence, and hatred based on gender identity or sexual orientation, and whereas various advancements have been made with respect to equitable treatment of LGBTQ community throughout the nation, but there continues to be some opposition against people from this community around the world, making it important for cities like Des Moines to stand up and show support for our residents who are affected. And whereas the city of Des Moines remains committed to protecting the civil rights of LGBTQ communities and forging a more open and just society. Now, therefore, I, the mayor of the city of Des Moines, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2020 as LGBTQ Pride Month and call upon the residents of Des Moines to recognize and participate in this special event. And thank everybody on the Civil and Human Rights Commission and especially your subgroup for working on this, and let's keep working together. Thank you so much. And with that, that completes our proclamations. I think we should call our meeting to order, and I will quickly ask our...
Mayor, I thought Dan Jensen was going to speak on the proclamation too. I don't know if his hand is raised.
All right, I didn't see his hand up. Thank you for mentioning it. Dan, are you there?
I am here. Yep, I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity of inviting me to just make a few comments on this proclamation and greatly appreciate the proclamation of declaring the month of June as LGBTQ Pride Month. As president of Capital City Pride, we constantly work on the promotion of self-affirmation, dignity, equality, and increased visibility of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people. So feel that this proclamation will help us in that mission. And, hope. And that's all. That's really all I have to say. Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you for being here and appreciate your words. All right. With that, let's call our meeting to order, and I will ask the clerk to please take roll.
County,
Here.
Boson,
Here.
Voss,
Here.
Gray,
Here.
Westergaard,
Here.
Mandelbaum,
Here.
Gatto.
Here. All right. I think.
Oh, Your Honor, we have a quorum. Sorry.
Thank you. Item 2 is approving the agenda as presented and or as amended. I will say that it's been moved, but item 49-1 was added. It's approving a payment to Bell and McCormick regarding legal services. 57 was added. It's an out grant application for the proposed improvements to the Prospect Park as part of the Central Iowa Water Trails and is sponsored by Councilmember Gatto. Item 65D was corrected. It's a roll call. It's an estimated annual cost of $150,000. Regular items 71I to 82. 71I is amended. It's an updated version of an ordinance with suggested changes as received and agreed upon with the community. 71B is added to receive and file from the community via NAACP to the City of Des Moines Council and Mayor regarding anti-racial profiling ordinance with the ordinance. And 71C was withdrawn by the city manager, the language added to the ordinance 71I. So with
Okay,
that,
that's fine. He's reading the right one.
we do have a motion. Would you poll the council, please?
County,
Yes.
Boson,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Westergaard,
Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Gatto.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
All right. Item 3 is approving the consent agenda tonight. Those are items 3 through 71. Those are routine items that are generally enacted by one roll call vote without a separate discussion unless someone, either one of our council members or a public, requests that the item be removed to be separately either outlined or detailed or considered separately. Kay, do you have a list of those that anybody is asked to have that happen either off the council?
No.
Okay, no items. Does anyone?
Mayor,
Yes.
I think I'd sent an email to Kay asking for item 4CC to speak on that.
Okay, I didn't get that. Sorry.
And then I had a constituent email about item 6. I think that's Marty Ryan wants to pull item 6.
Okay. I'm going to stop share for a second and try to correct something that is happening on my screen. So I'll be back in a second with the agenda.
And then, Mr. Mayor, I'm abstaining from 4M.
Okay.
Do you want me to move item 3, Mr. Mayor, with those changes?
Yes, we can go ahead and move it. We're just waiting
Yes.
to make a little repair here.
And then
Okay.
number 5 is a cigarette permit. Your Honor, did you want to vote no?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Seeing no more, let's, would you poll the council on the motion, please?
Yes. County,
Yes.
Boson,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Westergaard,
Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Gatto.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
All right. Let's move to item 4CC. 4 is license and permits and approving alcoholic beverage. Item CC is for Tipsy Crow Tavern, 102 3rd Street for a C liquor license. Councilmember Mandelbaum.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to continue this particular application for further investigation. Councilmember Coleman, when he served, would frequently highlight this establishment, and then there've been a couple of things, both their reopening in response to coronavirus, as well as some racist comments that maybe are inciting violence or could be seen as a call to incite violence that would influence our view on their good moral character, that I would like us to collect more information on before we move forward. So I'd just like to move this to continue this particular item until our next meeting.
Okay, and we'll refer that, what do you think, to legal and to get more information back through appropriate channels?
To further investigate, correct.
All right, good. We have a motion. Can we poll the council on it?
County,
Yes.
Boson,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Westergaard,
Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Gatto.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
All right, great. With that completes the consent agenda.
Mayor, somebody pulled item 6. There's somebody who wants to talk about item 6.
Okay.
I think his name was Marty.
Marty Ryan, I think. I'm sorry, Marty. Okay, item 6, this is under public improvements. It's ordering the construction of the blank golf course cart paths repairs, receiving bids of 7/7/20 and setting a date of hearing of August 3rd of 20. The estimate on this is $296,000. Council communication number 20-279. Marty, we'll open it up for your comments. Did we find him?
No, sorry, just one
Marty
moment.
Ryan?
Okay,
All right. Could we have a motion on?
I have Marty.
Okay, Marty,
He's
go
right
ahead.
there.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is my first experience with Zoom. I'm sorry.
Welcome to Zoom, Marty.
I can't wait to get over it. I wanted this pulled because I think the timing is very insensitive. I know that this is something that has been requested in the budget that came, the 2021 budget, but I think that it's a little bit insensitive because of the not knowing where this money is actually coming from. If this is part of the lost money. And if it is, I think that at a time when we're dealing with a pandemic and people are unemployed, people are struggling week to week, they've been laid off and everything else, to see that a golf cart path is going to be replaced by about $300,000, I think is very insensitive, and it shows no compassion. I would like to have this pulled and probably done later in the year. I don't think it needs to be done right now. My grandson and I golfed Blank Park golf course last summer. I thought it was a great experience. He thought it was a great experience. And I looked at the photos in the communication, and I don't see where that's going to hurt anybody, that any safety is going to happen. Meanwhile, I would also like you to look into the fact that maybe green fees and membership dues should be the sole source for this project. Better yet, the cost of maybe golf cart path repairs should be paid from golf cart rentals, or something to for people who bring their own carts on. I just think the timeliness of this item is extremely insensitive and shows no compassion. Thank you.
All right. So noted, Marty. Thank you. Again, this was setting a date of hearing, and we were going to receive bids. So I would ask, is Jeff on? Would it be appropriate to at least proceed until we have the hearing and then figure out where we go from the August 3rd?
Mayor, I believe that these fees are paid from the golf course of what they give to us each year. That's what the $296,000. Maybe Scott can jump in here and correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, but this still, we're going to have a full discussion on this at the hearing.
Okay.
Again, this is essentially a public improvement setting a date of hearing.
Yeah, I just thought Marty should know that, because he made reference to that about green fees, but that's the percentage that we get from our operator is what this is being paid for, I believe. Now, Scott, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe Marty would feel a little bit better about it if he heard that.
Scott, are you on?
I am on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I am double checking that because I do not actually have that answer at my fingertips.
All right.
Well, maybe Ben's on and he can answer it.
Yeah, if you could get that answer to us, and maybe also to Marty. I think we have a way to reach out to him, and a little less than 2 months away from that hearing to discuss this item. But I think that should be its part.
I'll move item 6 with those things added to it.
Okay. Would you poll the council?
County,
Yes.
Boson,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Westergaard,
Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Gatto.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
Okay. That completes the consent part of our hearing. It takes us to at 4:54 to 71I. 71I is a second consideration of an ordinance. It's amending by adding Article 3, Sections 86-42, 86-43, 86-44, 86-45, 86-46, 86-47 regarding unbiased policing. A is supporting the decriminalization of marijuana and creating a task force to minimize enforcement by possession of marijuana for personal use. Sponsors, council members Mandelbaum, Boson, Voss, and Gatto. B is to receive and file a letter from the Community Alliance via NAACP to the City Council and Mayor regarding the anti-racial profiling ordinance. Before I turn it over to City Manager to make some opening comments, I want to thank all the community for the work that they've put into bringing us all together and looking at how we police, how we move our community forward, and all the work therein. And so from the Alliance, NAACP, ACLU, and CCI, thanks for your sticking to it and your participation in this ongoing process. And I also want to remind everybody that this is not the end of the process. This is the beginning. We are working to make Des Moines an ever better city, and we know that what we do in 2020 may need to be altered either before the end of the year or moving forward into the years and decades to come. So we have to all stick together and be diligent, and I want to thank everybody for being part of this. And Mr. Manager, I'm going to quickly turn it over to you, knowing that we have all spent a lot of time on this, and as recently as Friday evening, the manager and I spent some time with the Alliance on the phone going over some additional details, and I'm sure the rest of you have spent a lot of time on this as well. So thank you, council members, for your input. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is Scott Sanders, City Manager. I too want to thank the broader community, frankly, for all the input that we have received, both through emails, through the mail, and voicemails as well. It's been an incredible amount of engagement by the public, and we surely appreciate that. It has made the final product better. I want to specifically thank the Community Alliance in working through actual language and testing that language with them, again, to improve the ordinance. So thank you to the Community Alliance with their work as well. The Des Moines community has clearly become very engaged in this initiative, and actually additional broader policies as well. This ordinance is only one of many aspects that the city is currently addressing. I'll call attention to our civil and human rights work with the Bridging the Gap. We had that joint meeting just a few days ago, for which there are another 12 initiatives and assignments that have been given to the city manager's office and others to work on. And these are overlapping priorities with what we have heard from our residents most recently. I would say that this ordinance is a significant step forward in progress. This ordinance prohibits racial profiling. It goes further to prohibit all bias policing within our city. The police department policies and procedures will be posted online. There are additional training requirements within this ordinance. There is the participation of our own civil and human rights in filing complaints and assistance in that regard to our residents. And there will be annual reporting out as well. There is a committee created to assist in collecting data and researching best policies. I look forward to that work with the community, including the Alliance. And we have broader goals beyond that we need to continue as well. So with that, Mayor and Council, I strongly recommend approval of this ordinance.
All right, let's go ahead and thank you, Scott, for your words and in your work, and all of your staff, including Des Moines Police and everyone, including the Civil and Human Rights Commission, for their ongoing work to make Des Moines an ever better community. I will quickly open it up and ask our council if you have any comments that you would like to make regarding this ordinance in moving it forward.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I think I'd like to thank, first off, the Alliance, specifically Betty. I know that she spent a lot of time on this. I know our council has spent a lot of time. And I know, Scott, you and Jeff Lester have really put the time in, and the chief, to make this a significant change, an ordinance that's going to make a difference. And I would echo the mayor's comments that we're going to keep moving forward. And I would move 71 I and A.
Okay. Item has been moved. Other comments?
Mayor, I guess I'd prefer to hear from the public before I make my comments. So I'll let other council members if they want to talk now, but I want to hear from the public before I make comments.
Okay. Any other council members like to make any comments?
Are we waiting here? I think we need to, I don't know how many people are signed up. I need to hear from people.
Okay. If that's the wish of the council, Kay, do we have some hands up? And if so, about how many do we have?
How many? About 14 so far. They keep going up. So.
All right, so council, with that many already on, and it looks like more are wishing to speak, what do we say? Are there any opening speakers like before?
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
Pardon?
Do we have any opening speakers from any of the alliance that wanted to make opening comments? We, as last time, we gave them 3 minutes, and then I think we gave everybody else, a minute or so to add on additional comments.
I know that Betty Andrews was going to be first.
Okay.
and
Daniel Zaniel's in there, and so is Pastor Gaddy.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we have Betty Andrews.
and I know Laurel Clinton, Viola Perry, and D'Artagnan Brown are also Alliance members who should speak at the front.
Can I get Daniel Brown?
Okay, and who was right after Betty before Pastor Gaddy?
Daniel Zeno, Z-E-N-O.
Viola
Okay.
Perry.
Yeah, I've got Viola Perry. Daniel Zeno. All right, let's go ahead and open up. So we will give these people who have been members ongoing of the Alliance, are we all okay giving them each 3 minutes? And then the balance will give a minute to add additional comments into the record? Is everybody okay with that?
This is Voss.
Yes,
Fine
Mayor.
with that.
All right, I think we have an affirmative. Betty Andrews, if you're on, let's go ahead and open Betty up and let her get started. Thank you, Betty.
Thank you. I am here. Mr. Mayor and Council, I want to take this opportunity to announce that the NAACP is putting their support behind this proposed anti-racial profiling ordinance. It has certainly been a journey, and we appreciate the opportunity to be at this point right now. The NAACP has been working on anti-racial profiling issues in the state of Iowa for about 6 years, starting first at the state level and moving now to work with another anti-racial profiling ordinance in another city, and now Des Moines becoming the second city to enact this legislation. So we are very pleased. We are very pleased that this is a good step. We understand that it is not perfect, but it is a good step. I do want to congratulate the Alliance, my fellow Alliance members, with CCI, the ACLU, LULAC, and many others. We also want to say thank you to the broader community for their support, for continually persisting in this issue and not letting this issue drop. As a group, we have made a major milestone in manifesting something that wasn't in place before. So I want to congratulate everyone for that. I do just at the risk of repeating some of the things that the city manager said earlier, I do want to just emphasize, because I'm still getting text here about the ordinance, but just to emphasize that this ordinance not only bans racial profiling, but it bans unbiased policing. it makes it clear that discriminatory pretextual stops are banned by the city. Also, it also includes a duty to interfere, which means that if someone has their knee, or if an officer has their knee on the neck of someone gasping for air, they should interfere. It also include, or we also acknowledge that there was a resolution to address data collection. That resolution was passed in March and sets forth a RFP for a consultant to address best practices around data collection. The ordinance also has a strong training component utilizing implicit bias, de-escalation, and cultural competency training. The ordinance also does have a committee included in it, the Community Policing, Code Enforcement, Policy and Practices Review Board. That committee is now appointed by the mayor and at-large council members, which represents which is a nod to its importance. And they will be reviewing best practices and doing annual reporting as well. So we also just want to acknowledge Councilman Josh Mandelbaum, Councilwoman Connie Bozen, and all of the council for listening to the community and helping us get to this place. We also would just like to acknowledge the city manager for the increase in movement on this issue, as I know that he probably got tired of my late night calls, texts, and emails, but he knows that I'm pretty undeniable. So we worked through this, and I would just like to say that it is as I said before, it is not perfect, but it is a good step. We are looking forward to moving forward and continuing this process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think our next speaker was going to be Daniel.
Daniel?
All right, can we move to Reverend Gaddy?
Reverend Gaddy?
Hello?
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I want to thank the council members who took the time to thoughtfully discuss this ordinance over the past week with the Alliance. I am very pleased that many of the changes requested by the Community Alliance have been adopted in this ordinance. I want to thank our colleagues, Iowa CCI, the NAACP, the ACLU, and countless other groups for their fortitude in this 2-year-long effort to make Des Moines a city that bans racial profiling. I also want to thank the broader interfaith community from all races for every call, every email of support. This is a community effort, and I'm very appreciative for this move that makes Des Moines makes Des Moines closer to being a true community policing municipality. And I don't want to forget the efforts of one council person in particular who spent 2 or 3 hours with us on the phone, Councilman Voss, for his efforts as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Gaddy. Is Viola Perry on?
Let me get one moment.
There you go.
Okay, there
Hello?
you are. Yes.
Thank you. Okay. All right, Mayor, council members, City Manager Viola Perry, Des Moines, CCI Racial Justice Member. I just want to go personal here. That is, I'll rewind and replay what I said before, when I spoke before council members before. We know that this is not about anti-policing. It's about anti-bad policing, comments or the phrases, those bad apples, the bad actors like the Derek Chauvins who have killed so many Black people. Now, in the reflective mood or moments, I think and I hope that there are some officers like Frank Serpico or Ron Starworth. These police officers have a story to tell. And so I'm wondering, are there any officers like that within the blue wall? If you want to know more about them, you can Google them. Now let me rewind again and replay all the work done since 2018. The CCI Racial Justice Team, community members, and some council members with 6 points of ban racial profiling, ban pretextual stops, annual data collection for public view, implicit bias de-escalation training, making marijuana a low-level enforcement, and citizen review board. Now let's let me just let's look at that marijuana piece. Now, ACLU studies show that Blacks are 7 times as compared to whites, 3 times more likely to catch a case. In other words, arrested for marijuana possession. Now, while decriminalization of marijuana requires a state law change,
That's 3 minutes.
Pardon me?
3 minutes.
I have to finish up? Okay.
Yes.
Des Moines should coordinate with other cities and have lead this effort. I will speak later when I have time on the Citizen Review Board. Thank you.
Viola, thank you very much. I have D'Artagnan Brown. D'Artagnan, are you on?
Myself. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good evening, all. And my name's D'Artagnan Brown. I live at 2723 Columbia. It's in the great Union Park, Highland Park neighborhood. Tonight, I'm speaking, though, to represent over 5,000 members of Iowa Citizens for Community Improvement. Wow. Somebody's got a noisy connection out there. There we go. Although not all in Des Moines, we're an interracial, intergenerational grassroots organization speaking up for those who have no voice. Tonight, I can see that there's been a lot of work done here, and boy, do we appreciate that. But we're also seeing and we're really sensitive to the things that have not been said. The Citizen Review Board, it's mystifying to me as a Des Moines resident. Who wouldn't want to have an opportunity to create a shared mission team that really makes Des Moines a welcoming city? As you guys know, bad cops, bad policemen cost all of us in blood and treasure. Instead of these weird Chamber of Commerce best city lists, we should all be working to create real, sustainable, human-centered teams where good cops, which we have a whole lot of them, get rid of bad guys so we don't have to be in fear from either bad policing or bad guys. And one more thing to really emphasize, as she said, this is not a hate the police thing. We are, in fact, very appreciative. This year, as you all well know, we have lost several African-American young men to violence, and it certainly wasn't police violence that killed them. They were criminals, and we appreciate that the police are protecting us. But at the same time, we've got to make sure that this pretextual stop business and the data collection, which again, we're not hearing anything really significant about that yet. That's where the devil's in the details. When they're not documenting, we're not knowing, and that's where the bad things happen. I was a police reporter many years ago for the Des Moines Register. I know there are the police reports. When they're talking on the police radio, they're giving out a lot more information than even when we're trying to find out. So it isn't as if the information isn't there. Please, let's be honest about that. This is not Ferguson. This is not Minneapolis. The black men killed in Des Moines thus far have not been killed by police. In fact, we're deeply, and I mean deeply grateful for our police and using their talent and resources to apprehend those who would harm young Black lives in this town. But that's why the 6-point program is so very important. We're not going away. We're here. This is just another process for us too. And we appreciate deeply the work that's been done this far. Just know that just like the tides, we're here. We're going to be here to help you all and help our city get a lot better. Thank you.
Thank you, D'Artagnan. There was another speaker that I had written down. Was it a Clifton or something after Reverend Gaddy?
Well, I think we're still waiting for Laurel Clinton and maybe Daniel Zeno.
Okay, is Daniel Zeno on or is Laurel Clinton on?
So this is Daniel. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
Perfect. So this is Daniel from ACLU of Iowa. We are proud to once again stand with our partners at the NAACP and CCI and all of the community members across Des Moines who have been demanding for bold and meaningful change. In this ordinance, we see some areas of bold and meaningful change. There's also some mechanism put in place for ongoing work and some areas that we think require significantly more work. We urge the council to continue to take those bold and meaningful steps. That's what people want to see. Incremental progress is change. At the same time, bold and meaningful change is also what's needed. So just very quickly, banning racial profiling, banning biased policing, mandating annual training, all significant changes that we think are positive that are in this ordinance. In terms of work that will be ongoing, there's the resolution 40B on data collection. There is a committee that has been formed. We believe we should still continue to think through and talk about, and we continue to urge a citizen review board. And then on the marijuana possession resolution, creating a task force, we think that's a good step in the right direction. We know police prioritize all the time, every day, every shift. What this would do is the council would direct the police department about how to prioritize a specific enforcement area where we know that there are clear racial disparities. The one area I think there's some significant more work to be done is on banning pretextual stops. So the ordinance does include the words pretextual stops. In our view, it actually doesn't make the law different. Pretextual stops that are racially discriminatory right now already banned. So we believe that there's more work to be done there to make this ordinance an even better ordinance. So we applaud the good work, the bold work, the meaningful change that's in this ordinance. Look forward to continuing to work on the parts that have ongoing work, and look forward to the day when the city of Des Moines will eventually ban pretextual stops. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. And do we have Laurel Clinton on?
Yes, we
Yes,
do.
I'm here. Hi, my name is Laurel Clinton, and I live at 1190 10th Street here in Des Moines, Iowa, lifetime resident, member of CCI and the Community Alliance. And I just want to reiterate that we did come in 2018 in April, invited 3 of the council members to meet with the community. We had no idea what those 3 meetings would end up with, but it came up with these 6 bullet points of the ordinance that we delivered to the full body of the council in November of 2018. I stress highly that we appreciate all of the work that has gone into supporting these 6 points. But as a community member and representative, I think it is very important that we get the language that stops or actually bans pretextual stops. We know that there are some states that actually have that language, California being the first one that comes to mind, that they actually ban pretextual stops. They have been determined to be detrimental to our health. I can send you information from personal experiences from my family and friends. I think, Josh, I sent you a text telling you how even small amounts of marijuana have caused financial disparities in our community. So I'm asking the full council and thanking you all at the same time for the work that you put in to create these ordinances and make Des Moines a stronger place for all citizens and visitors in Des Moines, that we become a welcoming citizen for our city for all citizens. I think it is important that we do lower the priority on small quantity marijuana, as we do have surrounding states that actually sell marijuana for medicinal and personal use. So we have to come towards the 21st century. Sorry, that's my dog. And be better. And I think we can do it if we all stick together. We're not going anywhere, City Council. We're gonna. So we look forward to working to getting the work done that makes us all safer and better. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurel. Let's open it up and see if there's some other folks who would like to make some comments. And again, we will note that these other folks, council, we're still, what do we think, a minute each?
Yes, 1 minute.
Okay. Okay, let's go ahead. And do you have the names of our next speaker?
It would be Sheena Thompson or Thomas.
Sheena Thomas, you're on.
One moment. Sheena?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Sheena.
I want to congratulate the persistence of the Community Alliance as a member of Amos. Amos started this work on racial profiling way back in 2012, and the Community Alliance has taken it up and done a fantastic job. I just wanted to say that. Thank you to the council members. I agree there's more work to be done, but I congratulate you on getting this far. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
oops. Sheena.
Okay, next speaker.
I just wanted to say Amos did vote to support this ordinance.
All right, thank you very much.
Shoemaker.
Oh, before we go to the next person, I think there were a couple other NAACP folks who didn't have a chance to Russ Lovell and David Walker. And if they could each get 3 minutes.
Can you guys make sure not to take me out of the queue when you guys go back to those people?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, let's.
I don't have the Walker coming up.
But hopefully you can get Russ Lavelle and then David Walker. Well,
all right, we'd like to have these a little sooner on. So if you've got some more, would you enter those now? Because we've got people in the queue that are waiting, and we're now knocking them out. So go ahead, Russ.
How do you spell his last name? I'm trying to get him up and he's not coming.
Lovell?
Lovell.
I'm not seeing him.
Is David Walker on?
No, I didn't get that one either. I don't see those people on here.
Okay, let's move ahead in the queue, please. We've got that.
Yeah,
I have.
I'll check and see if I can figure out what's going on I'll speak back up.
Yeah, we can come back to him too.
Yep.
Shoemaker, you're up.
Hello. Hi, my name is Indira Shoemaker. I'm speaking for my entire household in this meeting as well as the last. So I just wanted to say, it sounds like everyone is in really full support of this bill, even though it doesn't meet the stipulations that they put out for you initially. So I just wanted to speak on that. So just reading through the ordinance that you guys are looking at passing today, it looks like there are not specified or significant consequences for an officer not interfering or even for an officer breaking this ordinance. So it looked like basically it was just up to their supervisor, which as we know, since there's a lot of corruption in police departments, could mean that there's no consequence at all. So I would really like for the Iowa Human Rights Council to have jurisdiction over that, since you guys specified that they did not have jurisdiction over that. I would like it not to just be up to their supervisor, where it can just be put under the rug. I also like to see that it says that this violation of this ordinance can discipline up to and including termination from employment. I think we need some more severe consequences for that, as in they can't be rehired as a police officer in Iowa or anything like that. I think we'd like to have a minimum consequence for not going including an internal investigation or an independent investigation. I think that you guys do need to make sure that you ban all pretextual stops, not just discriminatory pretextual stops, because that can just be kind of talked around and say, well, it wasn't discrimination. But if we ban all pretextual stops, then we can't really be playing with that. You guys do really need to get a review board that has some real teeth. In fact, if that review board did have the kind of ability to put those consequences down, that would be wonderful. So if you guys get some work on that, a review board, I see that you are putting together a team to look into how to lower the priority of marijuana to the lowest law enforcement priority. I think you guys should probably, if that's the way that you do things, put together a way to find out how you can make a review board the most effective that it can be, because as we know, there are a lot of, I'm going to keep talking. We know there are a lot of community review boards in the country that don't really have any power. So we need to have a review board that has more power. We're in a different time period than we were in before, so we really need a significant community review board. Like I said, you guys are talking about marijuana. I think you should speed up the timeline on that task force. By October is just a little bit too long, when it's not really something that's going to be that difficult for y'all to figure out. So I think that you should just go ahead and speed up the timeline on that. Really, a week would probably be all you needed. We have a lot of resources for you. We can go ahead and forward those. So I think we'll go ahead and send those to your emails. You guys can figure out how to make marijuana the lowest law enforcement priority and go ahead and encourage the state government to decriminalize. And I also wanted to point out that there needs to be no additional funding given to the police to complete these trainings that you guys are putting in this ordinance, the racial profiling trainings and everything like that. It needs to be coming from the Des Moines Police's current budget, since they are already taking 40% of the state budget and it's already $70 million. We really don't need to be giving them any more money to be doing these things. And then I would just like to close out by basically saying that this is a bare minimum, something that has probably should have been passed. Hi, I'm still talking. Okay, so you guys need to start looking into demilitarization and defunding the police.
You've said that.
I've taken care of that. Who's next? Your Honor?
Yes.
Who's next? Who's next? Do you want me to just go to the next hand?
I would go to the next. Unless Russ Lovell or David Walker are on.
Hello. Looks like I was unmuted. Maybe not.
Andrew, you are.
Hey, this is Andrew Tadgy calling after this last council meeting. Boy, there's a lot to go through. Something about the bad apples phrase that gets overlooked a lot is that bad apples spoil the bunch. I didn't see a whole lot of good cops releasing journalists or preventing them from getting pepper sprayed during the protests. I don't know of any consequences that have happened. Clearly, oversight by the community needs to happen. The police aren't doing it themselves. So DC has been acclaimed and credited with having a good review board. They don't just have a citizen review board. They have all but one member has to have no current or previous ties to the police. There's a team of full-time professionals. I think it's over 12 that help investigate issues. So I love that we're doing this good stuff. We're going to create some things, but there has to be concrete details. Symbolic gestures are not going to do it. And if we do real meaningful things, then we might see real meaningful changes. For instance, the pretextual stops and making marijuana a low priority issue. Basically, if you see some teenagers walk around a corner, that looks kind of fishy, like they might be doing drugs or something. Really, it's just young people being young people, but it's a very easy thing for a cop to say, like, oh, that looks like they might be doing something mischievous. Let's put a kibosh on that. And that's why these seemingly simple or concrete measures are actually very potent and important. Also, on the issue of trainings, I agree that we shouldn't be throwing more money at the police department to have vague trainings. Some departments around the company have had trainings where they learn like a warrior mentality and killology and stuff, or they have these kind of soft, let's say 1 to 2 hour video sessions where they learn about sensitivity, which is a good thing. But I guess I would say maybe
1 minute.
We should have an overview of what kind of training they're receiving and how it's doled out as well. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.
Thanks, Andrew. Are Russ or David on? If not, let's go to the next one.
Nicole.
Oh,
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
yes.
Awesome. First, I will reiterate what other people have said, that pretextual stops should actually be banned in this ordinance. And to once again reiterate, people have talked about lots of bad apples. So far, I think 2 separate people have talked about how most of the cops in Des Moines are good. And I would like to remind everyone that chemical weapons were used by police against protesters and the press in Des Moines. So I think at the very least, we can ask for a statement from the city condemning this kind of police violence and stop saying that most cops in Des Moines are good, because we have evidence that there's wide-scale violence happening. I also have a question about the Civil and Human Rights Commission and its relationship to the Office of Professional Standards. My questions are, what mechanisms will be in place to ensure that the OFS will pass along complaints to the commission? I see that they're doing similar duties. What will the overlap of that look like? And which office will have more power, and which office will be given more weight in their findings of misconduct? I think the way that this particular part is phrased right now seems to imply that there's going to be an overlap of
1 minute.
And I just want to make sure that the actual power is given to the Citizens Review Board instead of the police department. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Nicole. We'll refer that on to the manager. And do we have any hands up?
Yes,
Or,
Chance Slinger.
Chance? Okay.
Chance,
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
you're going to need to speak up.
Okay. My name is Chance, and I think along with everybody else, we appreciate ordinances that are being changed, but it needs to be more than just the ordinances that we're changing. We need to actually change the policing culture. I'd like to call out officers like Greg Wessels that already have 2 lawsuits already against them for over $900,000. One for beating a guy up in 2013 when he was trying to stop another lady for stepping into an arrest of a lady and then getting beat up. And another time, Greg Wessels WWE choke slammed a 17-year-old girl down at the Dart bus station. And the review board would not allow that to keep going on. That officer is still working on the police force. He's not the only officer that's been guilty of having a lawsuit against him and still working on the Des Moines police. We can't afford that as a city, and to be able to fix that. And until we fix that, our city cannot heal and be the best that we can be. We can all do better. Thank you.
Next.
One moment, let me get to him. Crystal Loving.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. My name is Crystal Leving. I'm a Des Moines resident. I live at 3848 East Douglas Avenue. I'd like to thank Alliance leaders for continued efforts to improve the ordinance. While it has improved since the last reading, it leaves room for continued improvements. I cannot understand why a citizen or community review board has not been included. I understand that this might be getting considered, but it really should be a high profile. It only protects the police and the constituents and honestly the taxpayers. I also hope that in these discussions that the city is considering a mental health crisis team so that police are no longer responding to the mental health needs of our citizens, but instead we have trained individuals that can do it. As council members are waiting for the community feedback now, I would like to hear the members of the council actually respond to why they do not support a citizen or a community review board of some kind. So instead of continued self-praising, although we should praise those of the Alliance and those that have continued to work, I really want to hear the city council members respond to why they do not support at this time some of the components that were in the original 6-point plan. Thank you.
Okay. Next speaker.
Vanessa.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you to Iowa CCI, NAACP, Community Alliance, and ACLU, along with any of the other organizations that assisted in writing this ordinance. I know you've been working on it for so long, as I've learned in these last few weeks, and I just want to say that I and all of the community appreciate your efforts in doing so. And I want to thank the council for taking the time to work with these organizations to put this ordinance into place. However, after listening to this call, it sounds like there is still more work that needs to be done. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around why this council will not hear these organizations fully and will not implement the changes that are being requested. You've been hearing about this for 2 years. You've been hearing these organizations speak on this for 2 years, and you're still not implementing things fully. It's hard to understand. All of this is new information for me, and I'm on board. I can't understand why you guys aren't on board. Get your heads together. Let's get this done. I yield my time.
Are either Russ or David on?
I think David is on.
Is it Walker?
Yes.
David?
Yes. Thank you very much. This is David Walker with Russ Lovell. I co-chair the NAACP's Legal Redress Committee and was a member of the Community Alliance, member of CCI and the ACLU of Iowa. I think as we hear all of the comments, we were on to remember that the proposed ordinance unequivocally condemns and prohibits racial profiling. It commands unbiased policing. In that respect, by definition, it prohibits the consideration of any personal characteristic like race in a law enforcement officer's decision regarding police services or law enforcement. It makes a lot of headway. The resolutions that Daniel Zeno and Betty Andrews, our state NAACP president, as well as criminal justice chair for the Des Moines branch, make go a long way in ensuring that we will have the data, which all agree are essential for everyone to see. Transparency through publication is guaranteed there. The training on de-escalation and implicit bias are what we have been seeking all along. There is not a citizen review board as traditionally understood in this ordinance. There is, however, a provision for a strong community policing code enforcement policies and practices committee, which will review the data, which will discuss what comes in regarding best practices, including those with respect to pretextual stops. There is also clear, explicit provision for the Des Moines Human Rights Commission to educate the public about the availability, the accessibility of the Iowa Civil Rights Commission. Racial profiling is a violation of state law. The Human Rights Commission is charged with not only educating the public, but assisting those who want to file a complaint in the drafting of that complaint and in the filing of that complaint with the Civil Rights Commission at the state level. All state and federal remedies are preserved, and access to an attorney is readily available. And good progress should be made as we come together on an issue with respect to which I think everybody is in agreement that marijuana law enforcement possession should be lowered dramatically as a priority in our community. It's been the source of too much racial discrimination. The data are nationally available on that. It's an embarrassment, and the city and county should be proactive in lowering marijuana law enforcement as a priority. I think there's a lot of progress. I will say this, there's more to be done. Everyone agrees to that.
3 minutes.
I'm sure the city would too, but it's a result, the progress we've made is a result of engaged dialogue, which must, and we're confident will continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. Is Russ on? If not, let's go to the next hand up, please.
Sorry, it doesn't put them in order, so I have to find them. Williams.
Is that a last name?
Corey.
Hello?
Just a moment. Okay, are you there? Let me unmute you. Okay.
Corey?
Corey, try to unmute yourself now. Thank you.
There we go. Does that sound better?
Yes, it does.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to let you guys know I'm a lifelong member of the community here with the ISIS Red Strolling Drum Corps. I've been working with that organization for 40 years of my 45 years here in the city of Des Moines. And I can tell you from working with kids that are between the ages of 7 and 18 years of age, they're scared. They're very scared about what the future of Des Moines is going to be for them. And for me as a person that works with those kids, it's my responsibility as a mentor to teach them how to maneuver the world as African Americans here in the city of Des Moines. And it's sad to me that as many years as our organization has been along, we've been the light of diversity, if you will, for the state of Iowa and the city of Des Moines. And there's some great kids in that organization. There's some great kids in our community. And I think what we need to start talking about is if we're going to start policing our kids in a violent manner, the way that I seen a lot of those kids, those were teenagers.
1 minute.
Teenagers at the Capitol. And I think we need to start talking about making sure that the chief gets to the table with us as well, so that the kids can see that they should not fear the police. And I think that will help a lot if we can get Chief Wingard on board with this as well. But thank you so much for all of the hard work you guys have put in. I appreciate it. I love living in the city of Des Moines, but I want to make it better. I want to make it better for my kids as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Corey. Next hand.
Harley Bouldridge.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Yeah. I'm Harley Bouldridge here in Des Moines, fan of CCI and the work that we do. And I just wanted to lift up the fact that I've heard like wonderful praise for the work that we've done so far, and the idea that this ordinance that you guys have thrown back to the community is a place to start. But I just want to remind everyone that's listening that what we put forward from CCI, the NAACP, and ACLU as an alliance was a place to start. I think that was the bare minimum that we've been asking, and it's really disheartening as a member of the community to see this continue to get walked back. A piece that really concerns me is that the proposed Policy and Practice Review Committee doesn't actually include people the community can actually vote on. Even the 3 citizens that have to be on that review board are appointed by the mayor. And frankly speaking, I know where the mayor lives. I don't think people that look like me and think like I do live in the same community. So I would like to call for a stronger citizens review board, real data collection on what happens during these stops. As someone who's been a victim of pretextual stops and racial profiling, it is abhorrent to me that we don't have teeth in this bill to hold cops accountable for holding me
1 minute
of the night. So I'm exceptionally disappointed that we haven't gotten to a place where we can actually put teeth behind a bill. Thanks for your work.
Okay, next.
Jalen Cavell.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you just muted me again for some reason. I just want to say that I'll start my statement off by saying that what you all did to Indira by muting her mic and then kicking her from the meeting was completely unprofessional and really disrespectful. She was, being civil and she was making good points, and you all decided to cut her mic off, even though you gave other members of the community 3 minutes to speak. So I'll start with that. I also want to say that, good job to you guys, I guess, for making this ordinance a little bit stronger. It still is the very bare minimum. And honestly, I don't think you all should be celebrated for passing this. I hope that you all can kind of understand that when we're talking about these issues, we're speaking in a systemic way. So we're not talking about a few bad apples or there's some good cops out there. We're talking about a systemic issue in policing. And so what we really need to start focusing on is defunding and restructuring the Des Moines Police Department. So while you guys say that you're going to study the decriminalization of marijuana, I hope that you can also add in a real study of what it would look like to truly restructure our entire policing in this city, starting by taking away funds from the Des Moines Police Department and putting them back into the community. Also, I believe that this council needs to strongly look into firing Chief Daniel.
1 minute.
Thanks.
Next speaker.
Jessica Little.
Yeah, hi. So I wanted to give an example of why the pretextual stops need to be on here and a priority. I had a friend of color that was pulled over for having an air freshener hanging from his rearview mirror. After the officer pulled him over, he said that he could smell marijuana coming from my friend's car. My friend doesn't do drugs and definitely doesn't smoke marijuana. So this shows you that even saying that they can't pull over for racial profiling, they can find reasons to pull people over that are obviously racial profiling. I think we need to make sure that cover loopholes for them not to be able to do that. And one way we can do that is making sure we have a citizen council that's looking at these things, so people that look like my friend can be on that board to say that, yes, this is wrong and they need to be held accountable. The other thing I really want to say real quick is we do have great officers in Des Moines, there's no doubt. But we cannot be naive to think that we cannot have a George Floyd here in Des Moines either. It takes one bad cop to be able to work in a system and do bad things. And if we don't take this seriously, we could very well have a George Floyd. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Carrie Tijan.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, sir.
Great. Hi, my name is Kari Tijan, and I live at 1815 61st Street. And I just want to appreciate the moment to speak. I'll be brief in my comments, but I am in support of an ordinance that the 3 community groups, the ACLU, CCI, and NAACP have pushed for. And I support all 6 points of the ordinance to be addressed, including banning racial profiling, pretextual stops, including some data collection, citizens review board, and then training. But I agree with the comments stated earlier about not providing additional funding, but instead reallocation. And additionally, as one of the earlier speakers stated, considering what reorganization and disbanding of police departments have looked like in other places. So I'll yield my time. Thank you.
Another speaker?
One moment.
As you're looking, have you seen Russ? Is he clicked on?
I have not. I can't see as quickly.
Okay.
I have to search
I
them.
might have spoken for both of them, but
Brianna Brewster.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, this is my wife's account. My name is actually Adam Brewster. I live at 1617 Oakland Avenue. While there have been many great points raised about what yet needs to be done, my question is very pointed. When it comes to pretextual stops, I'd like to know why the ban is only on discriminatory stops. If I am an officer and I have subconscious racist tendencies and I'm trying to be a good cop, I can guarantee you that I will still be using pretextual stops in a discriminatory manner, even if it is unbeknownst to me. This then means that the ordinance as it was is in effect no different than how it will be. So if it is worth changing, then why are we changing it only to make it appear as though it is meaningful change when it just keeps the status quo? That smacks of bad faith. We cannot afford to put forth policies and ordinances which have an air of equality, but actually obscure equality and only wind up upholding white supremacy. Thank you.
next speaker?
Mayor, I think Russ might be on now.
Okay.
It's not showing up on my end.
I don't see it either, but
Okay, I'll keep texting to figure that out.
okay.
Jennifer Leatherby.
Hi, can
Jennifer?
you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I just want to say that I'm disgusted that this has been going on for 2 years with no action. DMPD has continually committed violence against the Black community and recently against citizens who are trying to stand up for Black lives. This ordinance is the bare minimum, and there's a lot more work to be done. DMPD takes 40% of our city's budget, which comes to $70 million. $0 go to mental health. We also have one of the worst crime rates in the country. So the police are not doing their job and they're actually hurting our citizens. The priorities of the Des Moines government are embarrassing. I encourage you to take action now and do not give the police any additional funding. I yield my time.
Another speaker?
Josh says that Russ is on a phone without a name.
Do we have the number?
I'm trying to find it right now. It just takes a little bit. Doesn't. There he is. Russ?
Hi. It's been exhausting to get here. I'm not very techy, I guess, but in any event, thank you for making an effort to find me. Well, I wanted to follow up on comments that I heard Daniel Zeno make and my colleague David Walker and, of course, Betty Andrews. We do appreciate that these are important first steps. The law is a unbiased policing, not just a anti-racial profiling law, so it has a broader scope to address these issues. There is much work to be done. I've heard several speakers speak that the law only restricts discriminatory pretextual stops, and that's true. But that widespread abuse is condemned by the U.S. Supreme Court, but it's really important that it's in a municipal ordinance that this council is embracing. It will send a significant signal to any rogue officers that engage in that conduct. But we do need more, and Scott Sanders, we appreciate all the work you've done, but we plan to take you up on your offer to continue the dialogue. And one of those was the dialogue on discriminatory pretextual stops, that would be part of the consultant's instructions, that they would look at the language that we had developed, that tried to find a middle ground with regard to pretextual stops and to find a way to go ahead. And so that's an important piece of this. Likewise, the same is true with the data collection. Several have brought out how critical that is to both identifying the problem, but also to correcting it, whether it be a question of over-policing or whether it be individual officers. We need that data. We need to have that incorporated into the ordinance. Any really quality anti-racial profiling or unbiased policing ordinance will have data collection as a fundamental piece. Indeed, history almost always indicates that once you do the data collection, you immediately have a significant reduction in pretextual stops and in discriminatory racial profiling. So we're looking forward to the next steps. We do appreciate the progress that has been made. The other elements that I think that are still missing, we still hope that you'll create some type of a working group that will explore the Citizens or Civilian Review Board. That is not an either or between the board that you've created that'll look to systemic reasons, but also we know that the community has had serious misgivings about OPS and the quality and independence that they in their investigations. And so while we don't have a specific civilian review board in mind at this point, there should be an ongoing effort to hear the community that's an important part, a very important piece of this going forward. Again, we thank you for the progress that has been made, for working with us, meeting with us, for the Zoom calls and many other steps to make this language to be the progress that it is. Again, thank you very much, and thanks for the patience in helping me get on. Thank you.
Thanks, Russ. Next speaker.
Hayden Shoemaker.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Hi, I just wanted to say that I don't think you should be cutting people off at 1 minute, first of all, because it's really not enough time to speak, and also it's your job to listen to your constituents. So here's Indira Shoemaker again. Hi, I'm going to continue where I left off. I was talking about how this was the bare minimum kind.
Emma Castor.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I actually was going to ask why Indira was cut off. She was making important points about defunding and demilitarizing our police. It's important that in our communities we listen to Black women, especially ones who are offering us solutions. You arbitrarily decided some citizens get 3 minutes and some get 1 minute. And my question is, why is the council so comfortable silencing Black women? This measure, this ordinance, is woefully insufficient. We need to deprioritize marijuana arrests, create concrete consequences for police officers in violation of this ordinance with an external review board with a strong citizens review board. We need to explicitly ban pretextual stops. We should start by not providing additional funding to our police while working to reduce their bloated budget. We should take away tear gas and rubber bullets from our police. This ordinance is only a start, and we must strengthen it and create real stakes for cops who are racist and who are hurting people in our communities. And I would like to conclude by saying, City Council, we still have our eyes on you. We're still watching. I yield my time.
Next speaker, please.
Robert Nishui.
It's Nishamoy.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, first, let me start with that no one resident or citizen of Des Moines deserves 2 more minutes than any other citizen. If you're going to give someone as resident 3 minutes, you should get everyone 3 minutes. and that's where we should have started. So it is a bit disrespectful to only give other people 1 minute when you're giving other people 3 minutes. Second, I'm glad you all passed this racial. You are dealing with this racial ordinance, but you know what? A part of me is still saying, if we have a city council and a mayor that's still scared to call out police violence and its own police force for any brutality of violence that they cause to members of our community, I'm not really sure how much I believe in this effort that you are putting in. Maybe you do believe in it, but you're not showing it, and your words also have to back up, what you believe. Second, I would say that on the part about training, I would really like to get transparency on who you are going to choose to do the training. It cannot be people you're friends with, people who are going to be nice to the police, but people who will tell the truth, people who will actually talk about racism and policing and how that has contributed to the deaths of Black bodies that we've been seeing around the country and for decades. So please, if we get some transparency on the training of who is doing that. And second, another part is if we have officers who don't live in the city but somehow are policing our communities, that does not make sense. So Mayor County, if you could give us more understanding as to why that's happening. And then the last point is, Mayor County, if you could also give us more transparency about the Civil Service Commission and how you choose the individuals that are on there. And sort of what the requirement are for people to be appointed to the Civil Service Commission, because that's another area about in regards to policing and being able to have oversight over city employees. And so if you could just really give us more information on that part about how you choose people to be appointed to the Civil Service Commission and what the requirement are and the tenure that people can be on the Civil Service Commission, that would also be great. And to see if there's diversity on that Civil Service Commission. And also, last point, please give more money to the Des Moines Civil Rights and Human Commission. That is the one department I would say should be getting more money instead of the police. And so really looking at where we're prioritizing funding with our budgets and whatnot. So that's all I had to say. But again, if you're going to give one person 3 minutes, make sure.
Can we let Indira speak, please?
I don't know who's speaking,
Let Indira speak. Let Indira speak.
Louise Minor.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I've heard a lot. I think that you do need to be commended because you made some progress. But I agree with Harley and other people. You've been doing this for 2 years, and you should be making enough progress that all 6 of these should already have been passed long ago. And so I think we need answers. We need to know definitive next steps with dates and accountable people responsible for them. I want to know an explanation for why pretextual stops are not being addressed here in this ordinance now, and why there isn't a community review board yet. And I heard someone say that was involved in this process talking about getting a middle road. I think it was on pretextual stops. And I'm thinking, no, there is no middle road. It has to just stop. And so you guys are really on thin ice. Somebody else mentioned we're watching and we're going to continue. And you're going to need to have better transparency so that we can have
1 minute.
We need to be able to trust you, and we don't.
All right, next speaker.
Janice Hawkins. Janice?
Yes. Hi, I'm Janice Hawkins. I'm a member of CCI's Racial Justice Team. And I've been listening to the conversation all along this evening, and generally am in support of what the callers have all been saying. I'm in support of all 6 points. I'm particularly concerned, though, about the Citizens Review Board. There continues to be a lot of resistance to that, and also pretextual stops. With both of those items, I think we're talking about relationships between people, and obviously, to me, the bottom line is there's not trust there. There's not solid relationships such that people don't trust. Now, today I had a conversation with a friend who is Black and told me of incidences where he's stopped frequently.
1 minute.
Stopped frequently for the suggestion that he has drugs on him, and he never does. But, you know, that type of behavior, and I don't think anybody on the council or the city manager or even the chief of police or myself can know what it's like to be a person of color who is stopped for no real legitimate reason. And that does happen. I've talked to a number of white people, and no one has ever said that they have been a victim of a pretextual stop. So to me, this smacks of racism. I think we have to acknowledge why that's so important, and especially with the Citizens Review Board, why that's so important, because we have relationships to build there, and there needs to be that trust. If that doesn't exist, then we're setting ourselves up for a continuous hostile situation. And we all live in our community together. So why can't we all be treated similarly? Why is it that some people have to start having, stomach aches when the police stop them? They have to behave in a different way when the police are around them. We need to stop that. And and people may balk at a Citizens Review Board, but you know what?
Janice?
Yes.
You're well over 2 minutes.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Next speaker, please.
David Larson?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I'm a resident of Des Moines. I've lived here for most of my life, and I'm calling in support of all 6 points of the Alliance's plan. I want to thank the Iowa CCI, the ACLU, and NAACP for their work on this. We appreciate the council. I appreciate the council bringing forth some of these measures, but I want to say expediency is of the utmost right now. This community deserves these measures. They're not extreme by any means. It shouldn't be this hard to get this done. And we ask of you that you get it done, please, quickly. I feel like it's a bit of an embarrassment, to be in the city and that it's this hard to get these things done when I feel like they're common sense. I want to echo the other members of the community that have stated no additional funding for police training. I think they have plenty of money in their budget. I would like to see less money in their budget, but I think they can certainly find a way to pay for that. And I want to say we really need to see better police accountability in general. We have not seen that with the violence
1 minute
that we've seen against peaceful protesters. And I think we need to see that accountability sooner rather than later to have any faith in these measures. Last thing, the marijuana being the lowest priority. Again, we need to make sure that police are buying into that, because this has happened in other cities, and at times the number goes up with the amount of enforcement of that. But we need to make sure that this is real and it's going to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next speaker.
Carrie Condon?
Yes, thank you. I am a resident of West Des Moines, but joined today and last week in solidarity with my fellow community members. And I also support the 6-point alliance put forward by CCI. I would also like to echo some other individuals' comments regarding muting and kicking off individuals such as Indira. I find it very interesting that as Indira raised her voice, you automatically decided to kick her off, whereas other people have went well beyond that 1 minute. You've given them warnings, or you've not said anything at the 1 minute mark, or you just politely reminded someone that they were well over 2 minutes. You have to be able to hear your community if you're going to make actual change. And what I hear is you all just glossing over people. Mayor, next, 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 like it's no big deal. Like the voices here don't matter. They matter.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Natalie?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I would like to talk about pretextual stops. I think that everyone has seen that video going around. I know it was a few years back, but that was kind of making big news over the last 24 hours. I think that that is a good indication of why these pretextual stops need to be banned for every instance and not just discriminatory. I would also like to say that in regards to training, I think that it is very common knowledge that police training has been shown not to have any effect. So while I think it is a good move, I think that the general way that police trainings are put about needs to change. I see that you guys have annual police trainings in there. I think that they could definitely be more often. I think that they should definitely be like one of the first things a police officer does before like they get their gun or they're out on the street, something like that. So I think we could add some more language to that. I also think that that training should be led by somebody chosen by the Civil and Human Rights Commission or a similar group, so that it's not one of these warrior trainings, things like that, that people have been referencing. I don't need to speak more.
1 minute.
That. I also think that in addition to training, we also need to be looking at hiring practices so that we're not having to train racist cops to not be racist, which we all know is going to be ineffective. We need to be looking at who we're hiring and making sure that they are not going to be someone who is going to have these biases or is going to be inclined to be violent. I also would like to talk about the funds of Iowa City. Like I said, I don't want any more funds to be given for these trainings. I also, someone talked about mental health crisis teams. Those already exist, so the city doesn't really need to invent them, but they can definitely expand them, give them some funding.
Minute and a half.
That's nice. Okay, so they also wanted to say that Iowa City, as I'm sure you know, is looking into restructuring their police department, and it's kind of strange to me that Des Moines isn't doing the same thing. So I think that the next thing that you guys can do can be looking into restructuring, giving some of police jobs like those mental health things and other specialty things to specialty groups and teams that can handle that, and then going ahead and taking that budget and giving it right over to them. I also think a great place to get some of those funds back is by banning the use of tear gas, because people have said that this is a systemic this is a systemic issue, and that it's kind of ridiculous to talk about bad apples when the entire police force and the state patrol and the sheriff's department were all tear gassing people, and I don't think anybody thought that was a very good look. So you can take those sorts of things, get rid of those, ban the use of tear gas, rubber bullets, any kind of crowd control, like violent devices that police have been using all over the country in the last few weeks, and use those funds instead for these mental health crisis teams and these other specialty groups. I also would like the city to look into crime reduction policies. So that is like getting rid of homelessness, decriminalizing drugs, looking into more programs to help. They muted me?
No, we haven't done anything.
Okay, great. I'm gonna keep talking then. Looking in those sorts of things that can reduce crime. What else? Looking into rehabilitation in Des Moines prisons, things like that. I think you guys can put together a task force to research that. Crime reduction.
Thank you. There's others waiting to speak. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Jamie. Okay, Jamie.
Can you hear?
Yeah, you keep fighting me muting, so unmute yourself. Okay, there you go.
Okay, it's not Jamie, it's Jaime, by the way.
Okay, sorry.
And I just want to say, you wouldn't have to mute You wouldn't have to mute people if you wouldn't be so incompetent about your jobs. We have been fighting for a racial profiling ordinance that is the bare minimum for the past 2 years, and the city council has refused to act on that, okay? This is not your meeting. This is our meeting, the residents of Des Moines. You work for us. Don't forget that, all right? The money that the city council, that the police department's getting, the 40% of the city's budget, that could be going towards anti-racist policies, like better housing for Black and brown people, better education, better healthcare. There's food deserts and lack of health centers across the city where Black and brown people live. That's not right. This is the bare minimum. We need to start talking about defunding police, disarming, and taking away the tear gas, and then putting that money into areas where Black and brown people need that money. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
KJ Dobbins.
All right, can you hear me?
We can.
Well, I want to first of all thank the mayor for his participation in these proceedings. I think for the most part you've done a good job and you've been out there. But the stressing thing for me is I received a welfare call from CCI about how I've been doing over the last couple of weeks. And I think for a community organization to reach out to me to see how I'm doing personally as a person of color, that's ridiculous for that to happen. Now I'm going to get into marijuana. We all know that it's a medicinal drug here in Iowa, but many of the symptoms and diagnoses that should be covered aren't. The criminalization details of the ordinance before us right now are weak at best. Des Moines should take the example from cities from similar
1 minute.
and legalize marijuana and strongly encourage state-level administrators to do the same statewide. The evidence of long-lasting benevolence from legalization has been proven economically and socially in scientific studies, readily available in any academic institution. I think we should finally have the funds to finish our project on Flora Drive that seems to have been taking forever. Lastly, our Iowa drug czar needs to remove all syntax and verbiage on marijuana from its policy and procedures manual.
1.5 minutes.
Thank you very much for your time.
Next speaker.
Alicia Hilton.
Citizens and Mayor County and the members of City Council for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I typically don't show up to address the government, but I don't take it for granted that as an American, I get to do that. So first, I want to say I commend everybody who's worked on this effort, from the city leadership to community leadership. I'm an African-American woman with a 28-year-old son that I worry about constantly. Every time he leaves, I'm concerned about him, no matter what he does. But I do want to emphasize the one aspect of the ordinance that I absolutely support. And I understand people talking about taking away funding, but I don't think we get better police without funding training. I come from a background where training is instrumental to being a professional. And I think what I learned from the George Floyd incident is that there were two rookies there present when that happened. And there's two trainings that happen to police officers.
1 minute.
They get out of police academy and then they get trained on the street. And I think that a continuing education for police officers, not just in racial bias, but in professionalism and in de-escalation, is a good start. And so the funding that goes into training police officers, I do commend you guys for looking at that annual training. If you can do it more, it's better, but definitely appreciate the work that you guys are doing to address these issues. But I do want to emphasize training, because being trained on the street in that
Minute and a half.
And I appreciate you guys letting me speak, and the work that you're doing. I feel like it's a good start, and you don't get it all at once, but we can get what we get, and from there.
Thank you. Lauren Wright.
I just want to express thanks for this discussion, and also to express my disappointment that voices that we need to be upholding are being silenced. A few seconds means nothing, except it means a lot when we are silencing the voices of young Black women. It's uncalled for, and I hope this can be fixed for the next city council meeting. This is my first one. I don't have anything else prepared, but I fully support the things that are being shared now. And her voice needs to be heard.
Next speaker, please.
Colleen Kenny.
Hi, Colleen Kinney, 632 40th Street, Des Moines. Speaking as an individual, I urged the City Council in April 2018 to pass a racial profiling ordinance. Here we are. We need to ban all pretextual stops. Des Moines would do well to look at Austin and Ann Arbor's Community Police Oversight Review Commission models. I have two questions. Would the City Council would the city please disclose if municipal funds have been paid for police misconduct lawsuits and identify those individuals? Not $1 should come from taxpayers to pay for a settlement. Where's the legal language in this ordinance that requires any claims to be paid by the individual? If officers have qualified immunity, we see no accountability. Taxpayers should not bear the brunt for the cost of civil rights violations, excessive force, or other misconduct. And my final question is, have city council members received campaign donations from any public safety related unions? Chapter 2.44 Code of Ethics defines conflict of interest and when elected officials are required to abstain from voting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Carter White.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So first, I would just like to say that Mayor County mentioned that this is just the beginning. He's been in office for, 16 years now? I don't feel like this is a timely manner, and it's quite upsetting. Joe Gatto is a coward for waiting for his comments until after the public speaks. Additionally, the setup of this meeting is inappropriate when we are talking about racial inequalities and racial justices. Those should be put at the beginning of the meeting. I understand that they are voted on, and the progression of the meeting is established beforehand, but we need to be putting Black voices at the front end of this conversation, and the treatment towards Indira was completely unacceptable. I yield my time.
Next speaker, please.
Heather Jones.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
We can.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Heather Jones, and we don't have to do addresses anymore, right? Because of the registration. Okay, perfect. So there's a couple of things that I just want to run through real quick. One, I am in full support of the information put forward by the NAACP, CCI, and ACLU. I do agree with Robert Nishamway that I would like to see increased funding for the Des Moines Civil and Human Rights Commission. And I would also encourage all of us to, yes, as people are trying to finish their thoughts and get all of their things out there, I'd like to see everybody be able to finish their thoughts as we go through this process, and just respect the words that are coming out of folks' mouths, and not hear the tone, because I know that these conversations are not easy. So let's keep pushing to keep as many people involved in this process as possible. So again, I'm in full support of what has been put forward by the NAACP, ACLU, and the and Iowa CCI. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Robert Johnson. Robert Johnson.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much. First of all, allow me to just say thank you to the council and to the NAACP, the Alliance, and everybody that put in time to put this together. I want to just say that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that certain unalienable rights are given to them by the Creator, like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But unfortunately, due to some policing policies for African Americans and for Black folks, that pursuit of happiness has turned into a pursuit of survival. And so I urge you to continue to listen to what these individuals are saying. And I'll end with a story. A friend of mine on Father's Day told his daughter as they were walking out of Walmart that they can go get some ice cream. And in her excitement, she runs out of Walmart. But this Black man decides to pause and not run after her because of what it looks like when a Black man runs out of a store. So these types of experiences, when this little Black girl turns around to ask her daddy, why aren't you chasing me? And he says to her, baby girl, I can't chase you simply because if I run out of this store, I will put you at risk and me at risk. But yet we still hold these truths to be self-evident. So I urge you all to hear the voices that are concerned, to hear the people that are worried, and to address their pain. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Next speaker.
Paxton Gillespie.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I just want to say that I am incredibly disappointed in the Des Moines City Council. I mean, you've been handed from the people exactly what we want. We gave you 6 points. We said the bare minimum for racial profiling in Des Moines is this. This is how we want you to tackle the issue. You're acting like this is a first step in a series of steps, but I am wondering what the objectives are in your path. Seemingly none, because you're the people with power. You are the only people who have the power to pass this racial profiling ordinance, and you fail to do it. And time again, you're failing the city. So I am forced to ask myself the question, what is the purpose of the city council? Why are all of you making so much money to do this job if none of you can do it? You're completely incompetent. And it's so disgusting to hear people who have experienced police brutality and violence, who have been tear gassed, who have been shot, who have been beat up by the Des Moines Police Department, tell you, hey, our lives are at risk. We are fighting for our lives. You are the only people who have the power to save our lives. I know it's been a minute. And you all choose to do nothing. You choose to do nothing because you are wedded to the police department, to the violent police department that last week, 2 weeks ago, was on the streets beating up my friends, tear gassing them, and arresting reporters. It's disgusting and it's evil. I don't know how you sleep at night, frankly. I don't know what you think of yourselves, but I think you're all disgusting individuals. Thank you.
Bradford Titus. Bradford. Will you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I was
Hello?
just going to. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm Brad Titus. I live at 2832 Ridge Road. And I really appreciate the opportunity to meet on this subject again this week. These are tough questions that are facing us. I support the full 6 original CCI points. I support virtually everything said by the previous speakers. I'm beyond perplexed as to why the council finds this so hard to honestly address these issues. I would really like to hear what credible witnesses from our Des Moines community have to say. I think it's absolutely ineffective and inexcusable to not take advantage of Indira's testimony as a Black woman to her experience on the streets.
1 minute.
I would like to hear that. I'll cut out some of the rest of what I said and cut to the chase. I have a complete lack of confidence in this process, in our city administrators, in the council, but I do have hope. I have a short series of actions that I think could go a long ways to solving this. I would like the council to instruct City Manager Scott Sanders to fire Chief Wingert. Then I would like the council to fire Scott Sanders, the city manager. Then I would like Mayor County to resign. Then I would like the rest of the council to resign so that we can start over again. You are completely failing this community. Thank you.
John Hardy. John Hardy.
Hello?
Thank you. You're on.
Hi, John Hardy. I live in Roosevelt area. I grew up here, went to Roosevelt, and I graduated from Drake Law School in 2016. I want to tell you about my first jury trial. The only charge was possession of marijuana. The defendant was a young Black man, about 19 years old. And after paying the prosecutor to work up the case and paying me to defend the case, because there was no plea deal, we went and had a jury trial at the Polk County Courthouse. A district judge, 2 attorneys, a court reporter, a sheriff's deputy. We all spent 2 days at the courthouse, full time, paid by the government, various levels, state, county, and we paid the police officer to come testify. We paid a state scientist to come authenticate the lab results to confirm that it was indeed marijuana. And we pulled 40 neighbors into a jury pool for the first day. Once we got our jury, the sitting jurors spent 2 days with us at the courthouse. And I just want to say, if the Des Moines Police Department is directed to enforce marijuana laws, the people who are directing them to enforce those laws are committing to that level of expenditure of resources. If the defendant doesn't cave and enter a plea deal, we're setting up a domino effect for all of that. And by the way, now that the coronavirus has stopped a lot of the jury trials that are happening these days, everybody else is waiting for court space. All the civil jury trials, important criminal trials are going to be combating for those resources. So please take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
Buffy Jameson.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Awesome, awesome, cool. So I just want to say what everyone has been saying to you. So basically just echoing a bit, but in a more direct way so that maybe you can get it. The city council needs to check its implicit bias. Just because we can't see faces doesn't mean we can't guess the race of folks based off of their language or the things they said to indicate their race within their speeches. White people are getting more time. People of color are being silenced and cut off, especially if their views aren't moderate. This is racist. Racist. After this, please come up with a concrete structure for timing not just the community, but yourselves, so that everyone can have the exact same amount of time. This is a simple way to address this problem. I yield my time.
Next speaker.
Abby Banks.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Great. I would just like to say that it's absolutely reprehensible that you're refusing to listen to your constituents, specifically Indira and Natalie. I just finished my freshman year at Drake University, and although financial consequences should not be the only reason you pay attention to the people you serve, me and many peers have the potential to settle in Des Moines long term, a city we all know is struggling with retaining young people, consequently contributing to the local economy long term. I would just like to remind you that the people are watching, the young people are watching, and you will not get away with dismissing your constituents in such a disgusting manner. The officers that you're so quick to defend have been out on the streets over the last few weeks, brutalizing my friends and my organizer friends who are fighting for Black lives, and frankly, it makes me ashamed to call Des Moines my home. I'd also like to uplift Carter White, calling Joe Gatto a coward. We were all thinking it. Thank you. I yield my time.
Next speaker.
April Carnes. April.
Thank you. Thank you. I am here. I'm not comfortable giving my address, but you guys should have that information. I just wanted to ask why you have at least two, if not more, but confirmed 2 Des Moines police officers that have been previously not charged, but previously found to be practicing racial profiling. One speaker earlier spoke on it about the viral video that's gone around just in the last 24 hours that's from a few years ago. But Kyle Thies is still a Des Moines police officer. And in addition to, there was another gentleman that I wasn't familiar with his case, but somebody had mentioned it. His name was Greg. He is also still a Des Moines police officer. So I really just don't understand how you expect to reform a department that has shown that it's racially profiling. It is stopping people for no reason. It is brutalizing people in the streets that are peaceful protesters. Cops, I have seen it time and time again. Cops tell protesters they're not allowed to stand in the street, and then they take up this space in the street for themselves. That's not okay. And I don't understand how you can possibly reform this police department when these officers are still out there walking around, still out there racially profiling. I also think it's absolutely disgusting that you can't take the time to listen to your constituents. You give us a minute each, and it's disgusting. You should be able to listen to your constituents because we are who you work for. You work for us. You don't work for yourselves. You're not supposed to be working for the Des Moines Police Department, and you really shouldn't be driven by money. You should be driven by keeping the people in your community safe, and you're not doing that. You need to do better. I yield my time.
Next speaker.
MK Anderson.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks. My name is MK Anderson. I would like to say that I'm in favor of all 6 points of the Alliance's plan, including backing the Citizen Review Board, stopping all pretextual stops, and collecting and releasing the data on these stops. There needs to be consequences for the police who break this ordinance, and trainings need to be done transparently. And I would like to go back and address one of the first comments made by someone who said, "We're not Ferguson, we're not Minneapolis." I moved to Des Moines from Minneapolis, and I want to say that George Floyd's murder was the straw that broke the camel's back. This revolution came from years of the city silencing their constituents, not believing Black people and non-Black people of color's experiences, protecting the people in power, ignoring problems in our community, and refusing to accept and adjust to community groups' input, all of which I have seen and continue to see in Des Moines and in this call. We are not immune to becoming another Minneapolis. It really feels like the council is doing this to stop the protest or to have something to point to and feel like you did something. Passing the ordinance as is unacceptable. It's not enough. If you want us to stop, listen to your citizens. Stop silencing your citizens and hear what we're saying. I ask you to pass the ordinance as it was originally presented with all 6 points, and I ask that you let everyone speak. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Adam Callahan, or, yeah.
Yes. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, I have a few concerns. First off, I'm hearing a lot of people believe that this is that it isn't a systemic issue. And if it's not a systemic issue with a DMPD, why don't we have the support of the police chief and the police in general in establishing anti-racist law enforcement policies? If they aren't racist, why are they against making policies that are anti-racist? That doesn't make sense to me. Also, why are police across the whole country so united in brutalizing people protesting for Black lives? If they're not really racist, if it's just a few bad cops, why are they so against the people who are trying to stand up for Black lives? The ordinance itself is entirely ineffective right now without a citizens review board. It might be better than one of the versions of it, but it's entirely ineffective. It's like a car without an engine, because we know that the police chief and city council don't care if police officers do things like tear gas children. We know that days ago, when multiple trucks tried to run into protesters and actually hit some, that police did nothing. They just watched and have not charged anybody who tried to hit protesters. So we know that the police are not interested in holding anybody accountable, and the city council is not interested in that. So without a citizens review board, this is just some rules that nobody's going to enforce, because there's already people breaking rules, like the officers charged with misconduct already that have been talked about, that are still on the force. So we know that nobody's enforcing the rules that are already on the books. So none of this makes sense without a citizens review board. I also just wanted to say that it seems like you're wasting time waiting on people who mostly agree with you, like you kept waiting on Russ, while you cut off people like Indira, whose voices are really missing from this conversation and just don't agree with you. And we're all watching you on city council, and you won't get away with treating us like this week after week, meeting after meeting. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Sarah Ray Heron.
This is actually Matthew Heron. I am Sarah Ray's husband. We are watching together, listening together. I'm at 3807 Mariana Trail, Des Moines 50310. I would like to know why the city council, as well as the rest of state government, is taking so long to take any action. I understand that there are bills on the table now, but it's time that we actually get something signed and passed. There's no reason why government is the slowest industry in the United States at this time. And now we have all established that there is systemic racism, and we know that there are steps that can be taken, yet none have actually been taken yet. We've had conversation. I think Des Moines grows tired of the lip service, and that now is the time for action. You talk about decriminalization. Well, I tell you what, put together your task force, do 8 hours of research, vote the next day, get it done. You talk about reform of the justice system, of the cops. Absolutely. Put together another task force, do the work and get it done. I'm tired of just waiting for inactivity. Either you get it done or we'll find representatives that do. Please, thank you. And that is my time.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Bailey Matlock.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so I would just like to echo the countless other citizens that have requested to hear Indira speak. And I would like to make a more pointed gesture to the members of the City Council who have also not requested that she speak as well. So with that being said, I would like to yield the rest of my time to Indira. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Alexander Wee.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you, thank you. My name is Alexander Way. I am a Des Moines citizen. I would like to remind everybody here in this Zoom that Chelik is a selected official as the City Council clerk and not actually voted by the people. So, the restaurant industry is at 100% capacity. Why is the government not at 100% capacity if the public itself is at risk to COVID? Please, I think that there should be more work done in this time frame, especially when there is a dearth of time available. With decriminalization of marijuana, there must be a purging of previous arrests. If the law changes and evolves, should not the lives that were affected by those evolving laws change in the spirit of progress and fair play that we all abide with in the social contract? I yield the rest of my time.
Next speaker, please.
Robin Meyer.
Hi, yes, I support the fully all 6 steps, and I would like to see it go further. I would like to see the police department defunded and have the remaining funds spread out to specialists who are trained in mental health and other specialist expertise areas. We should not rely on force for all of these things, and that is what is happening. The other thing that I haven't heard brought up quite yet is that we need to re-examine the contract with the police. This is where a lot of the treatment of bad actors, where the rules for that is often laid out. And I think that's going to be a critical component in determining who reviews these things and what happens to bad actors and what happens to police who are complicit in not stopping their coworkers or just staying silent. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Lennon Cardwell. Hello, Lennon. Your Honor, that's all that's left.
Mayor, is there a way that we can give Indira a few extra minutes so she can finish her statement?
I would support that.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Indira, are you still on?
I don't think so. She hasn't been on for a while, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. I want to thank everybody for your patience this evening and listening. Councilmember Gatto had his hand up. Joe, did you want to make a comment?
No, Mayor, I just wanted to ask for her to get more time. But okay, since she's gone, I guess that doesn't matter at this point.
All right, Linda.
But thank you.
Yep. Linda Westergaard.
if we're going to take comments, I just wanted to say that I appreciate everybody who's taken the time to take part in the meeting. But I also want to give a shout out to Betty Andrews. I know that she has worked diligently on this ordinance, but it's taken cooperation from Scott Sanders and the legal team. They've also put in many, many, many hours. And I just want others to know that while this was being worked out, Scott was in communication with council members. So we were listening, and we were giving suggestions, and we were all working on this. So I just want to thank Betty and Scott and our legal department for everything that they've done. And Chief Winger was part of those conversations also. So it really has taken everybody to work together to get to where we are today. And I really do believe that we are building better relationships out there. I know I met with Laurel Clinton probably a year or so ago, and I sat down with her at coffee and listened to her. And I believe that we do have better relationships, and we're going to continue building those relationships. And I'm committed, as I know everybody on council and our citizens, we're interested in listening to each other and building a better community. So I just wanted to say that, and those are my comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Bill, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just have a few comments. I'm probably going to echo some of what Linda's already said, but I got to thank Betty Andrews. What a fantastic job, working late hours, working the minutia that we needed to get to this point. I also want to thank Scott and the legal team. Yes, we have been getting phone calls. Yes, we've been getting emails. We've been trying to make sure that we're on top of this. And I want to thank both of those people that helped us get through this and get us to this point. The one thing that I think I've heard a lot of people say is we need to get something done. We take too long. And yes, this has been a 2-year process. And I applaud the Alliance for coming forward and putting the tangibles that we need to see to make this community better. I agree. I think we've got more work to do. We'll keep making this going. I can tell you this, I don't know what Des Moines will look like 20 years from now, but I'm pretty sure that what we're doing here today won't be anywhere near what we're going to be looking at in 20 years. We need to get started. I think we've put the best minds in it. We've got total forward-looking people getting this thing done, keeping the Alliance in place, and doing the due diligence that we have been doing. It's going to go a long ways. So I'm anxious to get this thing going, and I'm also anxious to keep improving it as we go along. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Bill. Carl?
Yes, thank you, Mayor County, for the opportunity to speak. I agree that we have a long journey to go. I recognize that that there are a lot of changes that we need to make, and some of those changes will be uncomfortable for many people in the community. I promised to continue to engage in meaningful dialogue in the topics on the table, and just a quick shout to the Alliance members. A loaded room with attorneys, but we are on our way, and thank you for your patience and cooperation.
I think Indira's back.
Let's let her talk.
Okay, do you see Indira? Okay.
Yes, I'm trying to get there.
Okie doke.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. You're kind of echoing a little bit, Indira.
Okay, I don't know how to fix that.
All right.
What?
I think.
Okay, give me 1 second. Am I still echoing?
Nope.
Okay, so basically what I want to say is that the reason I was no longer on the Zoom call is because I was kicked from the Zoom call. So I just want to clarify that to everybody. I'm really grateful to everyone who kind of stood up for me since I wasn't able to do that for myself. But I did manage to get all the rest of my points out as Natalie Benitez, my friend, who let me talk on her account, though you guys did not let me talk on my sister's account. So basically all I want to say is that if you guys are making a vote on this today, I would hopefully that it is just passing the second reading so that you guys can take into consideration all the notes that people have made for the third reading. I hope you guys were taking notes because there were a lot of things that a lot of people said that need to be added into this. I would also like to echo Buffy that you guys really need to make a better structure for how you guys take in comments, because it is clearly just because you had more than a couple handfuls of people yelling at you about cutting people off and about the discrimination between how you treated a nice sounding white lady who was speaking versus me when I spoke up. So I think that you guys should try to improve that for the next city council meeting, as well as look into all the points that I made as myself and as Natalie Benitez and everybody else's points for your third reading. So that's all I got to say. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming back on, Indira. All right, Josh, I see your hand up. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. So I want to thank everyone who came to speak to us tonight. Also want to particularly thank the folks on the Alliance. A lot of those folks have worked with us on this ordinance, paying attention to critical details and working with us through multiple rounds of edits. Sharon, Betty, Daniel, Laurel, Lori, Pastor Gaddy, Russ, Harvey, and many others. And the ordinance has consistently been improved because of your diligence and dedication. I know one of the things that we all talk about is the importance of listening to the public. And I know that these meetings can be frustrating. I think at times we should spend more time on the public comment period. It's part of what we do and what we continue to do. But I also know that if we listen and we learn and we act, we can make our community work better for everyone. And this applies to each and every one of us in the city, from those of us on the council, those in the city manager's office, to the chief of police and our officers on the front line and city staff across all our departments. We all have a responsibility to listen, to learn, and to act. And I know we can all do more. I know I can work to do it better, and I will. Oftentimes, we talk about the listening piece, but we don't always share what we hear or how it shapes how we act. And I know this has been a long process, but I want to share some of what I've heard in this process going all the way back to the beginning and how I'm carrying that with me to inform how we move forward. When I was relatively new to the council, as folks have heard from this history, members of the community came to one of our meetings and invited me and several others to participate in community meetings to discuss racial profiling. We heard from one of those community members tonight, Laurel Clinton. And she talked repeatedly about her worry of her sons being pulled over because they were Black. Then that summer, in between community meetings, a video of 2 young Black men getting pulled over in Des Moines goes viral. That particular video, I think several of our speakers mentioned tonight. You see an officer claiming to smell marijuana and even stating that one of the young men was acting like he had a gun. Now, neither marijuana or a gun were found during that stop. But the thing that stuck with me about that in particular is that one of those individuals was Jared Clinton, Laurel's son. And for me, that was an eye-opening moment, a defining moment. It has stuck with me ever since. Laurel talking about what she feared and then seeing that play out in that video. More recently, the death of George Floyd has focused our attention. But one of the other deaths that has stuck out to me and that hit home, it maybe got less attention than George Floyd, but it's happened in this same time frame. A Black man in police custody in Tacoma, Washington, made news because he died. The death of Manuel Ellis has been ruled a homicide. And among his last words were the infamous phrase uttered by Eric Garner and George Floyd. He said, "I can't breathe." Now, as it turns out, Manuel Ellis was Betty Andrews' nephew. I've been on countless calls, Zoom meetings, phone calls with Laurel, Betty, and many others in the Alliance these past few weeks, but beyond that, one of the things that sticks out to me, the folks in our community working for racial justice, working to end racial profiling, working to change the way we do policing, they know all too well the consequences when we come up short. For them, the urgency of the work isn't just a matter of right and wrong. It's a matter of life and death. And one of the things that I hear from the community is that they're asking that we act with the same awareness and the same urgency. And I will tell you, I will work towards racial justice with the urgency of knowing life depends on it. Another piece of doing that work, it, for me, happened at a town hall this past week. It was organized by Core for Advancement. Young members of our community came together to let policy makers like me know what they expected from us. Several of the folks who were at that town hall, I heard their voices on this call tonight as well. And I can't capture everything that I heard that evening or even everything that I heard this evening. But I wanted to talk about a few of the themes that came from the discussion last week and how they are informing my thinking and how we go forward. And the youth in our community want accountability. They want transparency. They want communication from us, and they want folks like us to do the work. I think we heard that echoed a few times tonight too. They want us to do the work. And, oftentimes the way we work as a council, it can make it difficult for the public to understand our process, what we're doing, or even how to participate. We've seen that in this meeting. We saw it in our meeting 2 weeks ago. There's a lot of the work that we do that we need to do a better job of sharing how we're doing it and what we're doing. And I think we've tried to get better at that. That's one of the pieces to listening and learning. And every time we do something and we get a piece wrong, we have to be committed to learning from that and figuring out how to do it better, how to make it clear, how to let folks know about the work we're doing. Part of that process is the way that we continue discussions to get to the current draft of the ordinance. You know, and the transparency piece, there's been a lot of back and forth between the Alliance and members of the council and the city manager and the mayor. There's been a lot of back and forth. And I think we heard that reflected in some of the comments from Alliance members. Doesn't mean that we don't have a long way to go still. But what we've done and how we've improved the ordinance in front of us is significant. And one of the pieces to try and make what we do a little bit more transparent, you can't see every conversation or everything that influences how someone thinks. But we did include on our agenda tonight, so it's linked to and folks can see it for themselves, is the letter that we received from the Alliance last week outlining their reaction to the ordinance that was in front of us 2 weeks ago and key issues and changes that they wanted to see. And we see some of those key issues incorporated in this ordinance. There's been a lot of discussion about the Community Policing and Code Enforcement Policy and Practice Review Committee. That came from the Alliance, and they requested that be part of the ordinance. And we've added a committee with members of the public appointed by the council that will review data and practices, make recommendations, and provide an annual report that will be publicly accessible. That committee is critical to doing this work. It's critical to accountability and transparency going forward. And it's one of the big improvements that we have in this version of the ordinance from where we were just 2 weeks ago. Another piece that's included in here that none of our previous speakers have mentioned, but it's also worth mentioning from an accountability and transparency from an accountability and transparency perspective. We're going to be publishing police department policies on the website. And that type of transparency is a building block for accountability, and it's a building block for future work as well. That's another important change that the Alliance brought to us and that is reflected here. I'm not going to detail every single important change in the ordinance, but for those who have questions about the way we work and the details to the work, I hope you'll take a look at those pieces and track what we've done. And I know that while we've made progress, it's still a work in progress. But the progress that we've made over the past few weeks will provide a stronger foundation for the work we do in the future. I know folks have raised the 6 points that made up the initial policy request that came out of the meetings in the summer of 2018. And in the Alliance's letter last week, as part of their effort to work collaboratively, they noted that 2 of its 6 points, making marijuana the lowest enforcement priority and a citizens review board, could be effectively addressed through the creation of task forces to further the work. One of the things that I committed to when we had this discussion 2 weeks ago was to bringing a resolution to the council at this meeting that provides the path forward on making marijuana the lowest enforcement priority. That's something that I talked about when I first ran for office, and I've talked about it frequently since then. We know that there is a significant racial disparity in the way our marijuana laws are enforced. Viola told it to us earlier tonight. A Black person in Iowa is over 7 times more likely to get arrested for marijuana possession than a white person. Addressing the way we enforce our marijuana laws is one of the small ways that we can move towards racial justice in a community that works better for everyone. Tonight, I've co-sponsored a resolution with council members Bozen, Voss, and Gatto that does just that. Our resolution creates a task force charged with providing recommendations for, 1, any actions that the state legislature could take that would facilitate making marijuana a lower enforcement priority. And 2, any actions and policies, including but not limited to ordinance changes, that the city could implement under existing state law to make marijuana the lowest enforcement priority. We're asking the task force to provide its recommendations to council by the beginning of October. This ensures that we'll have actionable recommendations, and this lets the public know the process for moving forward and provides a timeline for holding us accountable for future progress. I'm committed to working on this issue. I'm committed to progress on this issue. And I know if we do this job right, it will have an impact. Another piece that we have heard time and again from the community as part of this process is the request for the creation of a citizens review board. We can't say that we are listening without acknowledging that. Now, while we've been discussing the issue for 2 years, there's never been a specific model or specific language that's been part of this process. I think that's part of why the Alliance in their letter acknowledged there was more work to do. And we do need to take a serious look at what would constitute a workable citizen review board. We need to understand what other communities have done or are even considering doing. We know Cedar Rapids is studying a board right now. Their police chief was talking about that process in the paper just this past weekend. Iowa City already has a board, and that was one of the boards that had been talked about by folks at various points in this process. But in Iowa City, they're not happy with how it's working, and they're looking at changes to their existing board. So we should be looking to ask and answer questions. Is there a model that is considered a best practice? What can be done under existing Iowa law? How do you measure success or effectiveness of a board? All of those are important pieces to moving this forward. And I'd support convening a task force to answer these questions, or having the Policy and Practice Review Committee do so. Or in the absence of that, I'm willing to work with those interested in the community on answering these questions and bringing the results back to my colleagues on the council as well. Finally, one of the things that we have heard from folks repeatedly, a number on this call, at our meeting last 2 weeks ago, and others, people are concerned about what happened during the protests in Des Moines and what's going on about this. I've talked with the chief about this, and he has assured me that a comprehensive review of all use of force incidents during the protests is already underway. This is consistent with our existing use of force policy, and it's something that should happen. We should evaluate, we should learn, and when things are done wrong, act upon every instance of use of force. We should also share what we learned from this investigation with the public. From my conversations with the city manager, it is my understanding that we will be able to share results from the investigation by the end of the summer, or sometime before September. In the interest of transparency and accountability, I wanted to make sure the public knew this investigation was underway and that we do have a plan to share the results publicly. In addition, I want to specifically address incidents involving journalists. While there's an investigation into those incidents as well, there's some things that I want to say about that. In order for journalists to do their job effectively, they need to be on the front lines when there are protests in our community. We've relied on their work to better understand this important moment in our community and our country. And journalists should not be arrested for doing their job. While there may be times where a situation is unclear, once we realize the situation, a journalist should be released and charges should be dropped. My understanding is that has not happened in several instances here. And to the extent that we as a city can control that or have influence on that, we should take steps to correct that. As a principle, we should make clear that that is the way we're going to approach this going forward, that journalists have a right to do their job. Time and again, we have seen the importance of a free press, and we should do our part to preserve and protect it. I know there's a lot in front of us right now, and I will continue working with the community members to get the full scope of issues in front of us right. I also recognize that this is just a first step. I recognize there is a lot of work left to do, a lot of listening, a lot of researching, a lot of acting. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'm committed to working on racial justice in our community with anyone and everyone who wants to work with me to move our community forward. I'm encouraged that I've seen so many in our community who want to do that work with us.
All right, Councilmember Bozen.
Thank you. I've heard and I understand the frustration with the council around development of a passage of a racial profiling ordinance. Sometimes government moves slower than we want. I do think the last several weeks of listening and collaboration with the Alliance and others really have allowed us the opportunity to give more teeth to what was originally on the table. And I want to thank the Alliance and everybody that was part of that, our city manager, our legal staff, for all the work that they've put in the time. I know there is a sense of urgency to this work, and I understand that at times it may seem that we are standing still and not doing enough, but there is also such an importance to make sure that this work, that additional listening, answering, seeking, and care is warranted to ensure that what we put on paper, the words result in effective plan and actual pathway forward. So I support this ordinance as a starting point, but we all need to do more, and each of us need to look for change that's needed not only in this ordinance, but also in our systems and structures. This ordinance alone will not solve all the inequities of our city, our state, and even the country. We have made significant changes by putting the Policy and Practice Committee into the ordinance. That is a group that could possibly look, or we could look at putting a group together to look at a citizen review board. When I asked, does anybody have a good example? No one could really give a good example of one that really is effective. And I think we need to make sure that whatever we do is meaningful. And I think we also passed our last meeting, the review of the engage and report of our best practices relating to police force. So that has been put in place. And I still don't want to lose the items that also came out of our community conversations. That's recruitment of people of color to our police force, looking at policies and incentives to get more people, police, living in Des Moines. So again, there's so much more we need to do to make sure that we have put in place things that will make this community more just and equitable. And I also would encourage, because I know we've had probably thousands or hundreds of emails, not only from just Des Moines, but this can't be just Des Moines. We've got to move forward, and the other communities around us should be asked to do the same thing, to make sure that all of their communities are providing just police systems and equitable opportunities for everyone. So again, I want to thank everybody that's been involved. It has been a journey. And I know sometimes everybody wants to get things done fast. We want to make sure we do it right. And I will leave it at that. Thank you.
All right, thanks to all the council members for your input. Councilmember Gatto, you made a motion on the front side.
Yes, sir.
For 71I, A, and I believe B, to receive and file the letter from the NAACP.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any comment you would like to make to move your motion forward? And are you making this a second reading? Or
I'd like to take the vote on this, and then I'd like to consider us to stop kicking the can down the road and to vote on the third reading and pass this ordinance, and let's get started on doing the right things for our community. But we better do the second vote first.
Okay. We have a motion. I will ask the clerk to please poll the council.
County,
Yes.
Boson,
Yes.
Boss,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Westergaard,
Sorry. Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Gatto.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
All right.
Would move to waive the third reading.
All right. There's a motion to move the third reading. I would ask the clerk to poll the council, please.
County,
Yes.
Boson,
Yes.
Boss,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Westergaard,
Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Gatto.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
All right. Thanks to the council, thanks to the staff, and thanks to the community for all your work. Let's keep together, let's stay together, and let's continue to move forward. I believe, without further prompting from the city attorney, I think it's past 5 o'clock, so we probably better move to the hearings. Clerk, note that it's 7:23, and our first hearing item is 75, which is dismissing hearing on the conveyance of vacated alley right-of-way west of and adjoining 215 Watrous Avenue. To Leica M. Wright for $50. Open the hearing on that. Council, any comments on that?
Mr. Mayor, if there's no comments or council doesn't have anything, I will move 75.
All right, item 75 has been moved. Ask clerk to poll the council, please.
County,
Yes.
Boson,
Yes.
Boss,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Westergaard,
Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Gatto.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
All right, item 76. On the request from the Village at Grays Lake LLC, Jason Grove is the officer for the review and approval of a PUD final development plan for the Village at Grays Lake Lot 2 for 2150 and 2270 Bell Avenue to allow the existing buildings to be renovated for a total of 93 household living units. Let's open the hearing on that one. Is council, any comments on this one?
Seeing no comments, Mr. Mayor, I'll move item 76.
All right, item 76 has been moved. Clerk, would you poll the council on item 76, please?
County,
Yes.
Boson,
Yes.
Boss,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Westergaard,
Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Gatto.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
All right. Item 77 on a request from Drake University, Vanessa Macro is the officer for review and approval of the Fourth Amendment to the Drake University Recreation PUD conceptual plan for property at the northeast corner of 27th Street and Forest Avenue to allow the replacement of an existing electronic sign with new two-sided monumental sign style. Let's open the hearing on this one.
Seeing none, Mayor, I'd be happy to move item 77.
All right, item 77 has been moved.
County,
Yes.
Boson,
Yes.
Boss,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Westergaard,
Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Gatto.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
Right, item 77 on an amendment to the ground lease and operation and maintenance agreement for the Metropolitan Salt Storage Facility on the Metro Waste Authority property. Let's open the hearing on this one, item 78.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move item 78.
All right, item 78 has been moved. Could you poll the council, please?
County,
Yes.
Boson,
Yes.
Boss,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Westergaard,
Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Gatto.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. Item 79 is on amendment to the lease with Drake University for the building located at 1220 24th Street, housing the police department traffic unit. Sorry. Let's open the hearing on that one.
Hearing none, Mayor, I'd be glad to move item 79. And if anybody wants to talk to me about how it ended up there, I've got a great story to tell whenever you want to ask.
Okay. Would you poll the council, please?
County,
Yes.
Boson,
Yes.
Boss,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Westergaard,
Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Gatto.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
All right. Well, Bill, there's a lot going on up in your neighborhood. Item 80 on the request from Denise Mahon, owner for the designation of the Varsity Theater at 1207 25th Street at the local landmark, council communication number 20-288. Let's open the hearing on that one.
Hearing none, Mayor, you're absolutely right. There are a lot of things going on here. And just a little point here, Denise was a high school classmate of mine, so I'll be really happy to move item 80.
All right, item 80 has been moved. Poll the council, please.
County,
Yes.
Boson,
Yes.
Boss,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Westergaard,
Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Gatto.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
All right, item 81, again in Drake area on the city-initiated request for the redesignation of the Drake Park Playground Shelter at 2300 Drake Park Avenue as a local landmark and to continue to the August 17, 2020 council meeting, council communication number 20-287. This again is a motion to continue. Let's open the hearing on this one.
Seeing no comments, Mr. Mayor, I'll move item 81.
Okey-doke. Item 81's been moved. Could you poll the council, please?
County,
Yes.
Boson,
Yes.
Boss,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Westergaard,
Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Gatto.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
All right, item 82 on the Fifth and Keel parking garage elevator replacement. Resolution approving the plans, specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, and to receive and file bids, and designating the lowest responsible bidder as Schumacher Elevator Company, Jeffrey P. Schumacher is the president, $498,623. Council communication number 20-277. A is approving the contract and the bond and permission to sublet. Let's open the hearing on this item, item 82. I hear nothing but the birds chirping.
Seeing none, Mr. Mayor, I'll move item 82.
All right, item 82 has been moved. Clerk, could you take the and poll the council, please?
Yes. County,
Yes.
Boson,
Yes.
Boss,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Westergaard,
Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Gatto.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
Mayor Connie, do we have someone who's trying to tweet into this meeting?
It might be.
Yeah.
Let's note that completes the hearing items at 7:31. Takes us back to item 72. Item 72 is an ordinance for the first consideration. It's amending sections 50-26, 50-32.05, 50-34, 50-35 relating to floodplain development regulations and continue to the July 13th, 2020 council meeting. And it was formally continued from the May 18th, 2020 council meeting. Again, this is a motion to continue that we'd ask for the first consideration on this. Let's open it up. Any comments?
Mr. Mayor, I'll move item 73, A and B, and waive the second and third. Oh, it's on there. That's B.
We're on 72, right?
Oh, 72.
Okay.
I'll move
Ready?
72.
Okay, Your Honor. County,
Yes.
Boson,
Yes.
Boss,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Westergaard,
Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Gatto.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
Now it takes us to 73, which is amending chapter 114 of the municipal code regarding traffic regulation changes as follows. It's council communication number 20-284. A is a parking restrictions, 7th Street between Indiana and Forest Avenue. And B is the final consideration of the ordinance above. The waiver is requested by Councilmember Gray and requires 6 votes. Let's open it up. Anybody have any comments on this one?
Hearing none, Mayor, I just want to give a shout out to Darius Jackson. He's the neighbor that has really spearheaded a lot of this. We're doing a lot that we can to control the prostitution and the drug dealing and the loitering in that area. And I know he'd be pleased as all get out to make sure that we get this thing passed today. So I'm going to move 73, A and B.
All right, 73A and B has been moved. Clerk, will you poll the council?
County,
Yes.
Boson,
Yes.
Boss,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Westergaard,
Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Gatto.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
Right, item 74 is amending chapter 102, article 4, relating to the right-of-way occupancy, council communication number 20-283. A is an amendment to the schedule of fees applicable to the right-of-way management fees. Let's open it up and see if anybody has any comments on this one. Again, item 74.
If not, I'll move 74, 74A.
All right. 74 and 74A have been moved. Clerk, would you poll the council, please?
County,
Yes.
Boson,
Yes.
Boss,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Westergaard,
Yes.
Mandelbaum,
Yes.
Gatto.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
All right, that completes our agenda for this evening. I want to thank all of our citizens who attended. I want to thank staff who has been on all evening, watching and being available for the items that are appropriate to their departments. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for attending.